Hello, this is going to be a quick video on the strategies that I thought were pretty fun for the summoner. This is in Tabletop Simulator, just because this is what I've been playing in and it's a nice little way to show you the summoner and all its different cards. So I laid out all the cards in order, so these are the ones and these are the X's, which is something you're allowed to start with, which by the time you have a summoner, you'll know that, but that's cool. I can just be redundant with knowledge anyway. And this is 2 through 9. And so the reason I'm making this is I just finished playing the summoner. He just retired, and so he's fresh in my mind. And so I'll go through a little bit of what I liked and didn't like about him. So in terms of cards to start with, let's see, here we go. This one is the one and only absolute must-have. If you don't take this, you're trolling, because you only have 9 cards to work with, and so being able to recover 4 of your lost cards is incredible and makes you function. You can go without it if you're like crazy conservative, but since you lose any card from a summon, then your summons are out there, you eventually lose those cards, and then you can recover them and continue playing, because rotating through with 9 cards is rough otherwise. So anyway, moving on, this is good, and you'd have to play with the intention of, I'm going to summon the lava golem, so I'm not going to summon the living bomb or whatever to be able to actually get this out there, but obviously it's crazy strong, especially if anyone can use fire, which we'll get to. You sort of can, but it gets a little rough. Anyway, so must have. So this one, the summon 2 shadow wolves, you actually get to put 2 units on the board. And so initially when I started playing this class, I thought this looked really cool and promising, and then I was super disappointed. But you'll see that you can upgrade the health and the damage on it, and so that affects both wolves. So when I spent the money on upgrading both of those, I went from feeling kind of meh on the wolves because they just kind of would run up, whack something, and then get one shot, to they'd run up, kill it. If they did take some damage, they could have a chance of surviving it. And in certain scenarios, piercing is so useful. So doing 3 damage with Pierce 2 is just so delicious. And so I actually really liked the wolves by the end. I don't think I used this a single time, just because a lot of times, like, these guys are 3 move speed, they're just going to be running off and doing their thing. So I don't know that I used that at all, but it is nice to have disadvantage on stuff. But since it's this round, you are a slow class. If you check out all these numbers, this is the fastest card I think I used, till maybe at the very end there was a faster card. I feel like, yeah, this one's faster. So at the very end, I finally went from 24 as my fastest to 22, whereas other classes are like 6. And so it's pretty rough. Anyway, so that's 2. So early on, it's kind of going to depend on what you're working with. So when I was playing this one personally, I had a meat shield and a healer with me. We play as a trio, and so doing slow but steady damage was fine, because I was the lowest level. So this I did like, and that's because it has poison, it can stay at range, but for the most part, I'll kind of blow through a lot of these cards just because it is going to be really scenario dependent. But I guess a couple quick things to note more generally, since I think that'll be more useful to you. The monsters you summon follow monster logic, meaning that you don't get to control what they do unless it's something like this, where you can actually control the action. So that means you're going to be trying to strategically summon things so that they don't run in and get themselves one shot and make you super sad. like when you summon your wolves, you don't want to have them be the first to run into a giant room full of 8 skeletons and just get themselves killed immediately. And so this is kind of nice because it could stay back, but it really depends. And so this one is one that you obviously you don't know what's in a scenario until you do it, unless I guess if you fail this scenario, but I think the summoner is pretty good. We did do a lot of failing scenarios, but the couple times I did get to use this, it's pretty fun. So target all enemies within range 2, and you get to do an attack 3, which as a level 1 summoner, you get to do that, and you get to create fire. This is actually pretty nice because you'll notice that a lot of your actual attacks are up on the attack part. I don't need to explain the basics of the top and bottom because, yeah, again, if you're here, you've been playing a little bit. So that means you can attack range in a turn. So like if you're intending to just chill and snipe people, then that is convenient. So I did actually kind of like this card. The Bat Swarm I was pretty underwhelmed by. You'll notice that it does have the create air and it flies, so it's kind of situational, but strengthening all adjacent allies, which your summons are allies, so if you're summoning a good amount, if you can get near your buddies, it's pretty nice. That is pretty cool. That's basically what convinced me to take it for a while. Let's see, what else is worth noting? So I did actually really like playing with this, and I don't know that I necessarily suggest it, but what I enjoyed about it was since we were a low damage team and I couldn't exactly one-shot people, I added an extra target. I basically spent all my money on upgrading cards. I got some cheap stuff and found some stuff in dungeons and then upgraded cards. Anyway, I had an extra target and brought in things that could add fire. So I had this, and so the next turn you can't use it the same turn, so you can't do BAP and then use it, unfortunately. Them's the rules, but you can use this and then next turn consume it, or if someone else does it. And then you target 3 with wound, and the 1 damage is super dinky, but it's not bad. Mostly, I personally was enjoying actually summoning things, and by the end, I was a summoning machine. Anyway, so I guess real quick before I move on to the higher level cards, I called out the air, so I feel like I should probably call out that you can consume the air with this card. I wasn't much of a heal bot personally, but if that's how you play, then you might like this card. I do really like getting to push people into traps, and by people I don't mean my teammates, I mean the opponents, although that would be hilarious if that's how you like to roll. But then the other one is this, which that is a really, really nice thing. And so a nice thing you can do with the high move speed cards is add jump, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend upgrading this because later on it feels kind of useless compared to some other things. So spending money on a card you're not going to bring doesn't feel that good. Same kind of with this one. If you're going to upgrade a card, I really enjoyed summoning 2 wolves that were upgraded. That just felt really, really good. So let's see. These I recall not being too hyped about, but move 5 with a jump is pretty sick. This kind of sucks, so I don't know that I'm about either of these. I think I brought this one in for a bit. The Slime Spear was a decent tank. It has shield and muddle, which is pretty cool. So it can just run in and soak some damage, but it only has 4 health, so that's not that incredible. And so it does normally get bopped. This requires YOLOing in, which I guess I can just get to that now. So you actually have a lot of pretty good move speed cards in this kit, and so doing something like this could actually be kind of cool because there are a lot of things like in the game in general you can come across things that have high shield but only 3 health, which is pretty nice to one-shot a bunch of those. And one thing I personally really enjoyed, because you have a lot of good move speed cards, boom, boom, although you probably won't. You might make it 6. I guess it depends on your goal, but you do have a lot of really good move speed cards, and so being able to get in, get around. Anyway, this one would come up situationally, but heal force still not bad regardless. The invisibility cloak, I really liked having that because early on you're pretty vulnerable. You could summon like a slime spirit, that kind of thing, but later on you can summon like 3 nail spheres, and again, like the wolves, you get to summon 3 of these bad boys. They don't even attack, but they retaliate and shield, so people beat up on them and essentially beat up on themselves. But you jump in, and some of the scenarios have things, obviously I don't want to do any spoilers, but where you need to be quick. You need to move around, you need to loot things, you need to do this or that. And so being able to go really, really far and then potentially like you go really far with this one. I personally had to jump to this, which was incredible. And I like this card anyway, but I'll come back to that in a sec. So you go in really hard, and then either you go invisible or you summon nail spheres and go invisible or whatever, and then you're not just like in over your head where you're just gonna go die and cost your group this scenario. So that is pretty fun. I'm a little bit of a crazy person, so that might not be a strategy for everyone. It's not one I'm necessarily suggesting, but it did work really, really well and caused us to win at least a few scenarios. So it was pretty fun in my book. But alright, I said I'd come back to this one. I really like this. By the time I was level 5, we didn't have a healer, and so even though these heals aren't the craziest best thing in the world, having anything that does healing and regularly, so if this doesn't die, it's going to keep helping you out, can remove poison, can remove wound, and just generally can top stuff off otherwise. It is pretty darn easy to get one shot. It only has 2 health, and it does try to attack. It does actually have a damage attack, so it's gonna, based on monster movement, want to do that, which kind of sucks. But I actually really like this one, especially due to this move 5, and once it had jump, like I said, it was pretty incredible. I guess I haven't talked at all about this kind of card. This one in particular I really, really liked. So I actually ended up with 2 items that both summoned units, and so between nail spheres, 2 wolves, healbot, all this stuff, that I had a power core and like a mountain hammer, I think. Just a bunch of different stuff. So I'd be like, yeah, attack 7, range 7, die. And so that gets pretty handy because obviously a lot of your kit is around summoning stuff more so than being a damage dealer yourself, but sometimes it's pretty nice to be able to be like, I need to shoot a specific objective. I'm going to do a lot to it. So pretty nice. And for things like this, I really liked the stamina potion, but I always like the stamina potion. Let's see, what else? I can briefly go through some more stuff. Really, it's hard not to level as the summoner. You just see how many different things they all, you don't even lose some of these. The things you summon all give at least 2 XP. Some of them give more. And so you actually really burn through levels. And so this one, very real chance you make it to level 7, even if you have a pretty doable retirement goal. And getting to curse things while doing fine damage every turn is ridiculous. It's so nice. And when your guy that's running in up front has 2 health left and they draw a curse, which comes up as miss here, it just feels real good. If you do make it to level 9, which I think I was level 9 for I think it was one day, which we did 2 scenarios during, but I liked both of these a lot for obvious reasons all around. It's just, these are crazy. And yeah, I guess other things to note would be the, what's it called? So this, obviously, I was already saying this is a must-have, and you can have it from the get-go, and you want to play around it. But one of the main things, so as a summoner, unsurprisingly, I recommend summoning stuff. Amazing. But one thing you can do is get rid of it at any time. So you can just be like, and it's gone. And so instead of being out on the field active, now it goes back into your lost pile. Then you can recover it, and you're able to have it at full health. Like if it's a wolf or a nail sphere, you can have all of them back. So if you only had one wolf or one nail sphere or whatever, you can have all of them. And recovering puts it right in your hand, so you get these immediately. If you super care about XP, obviously you'd get it back, but depending on what it is, it can also be lagging behind. So, no, not Slime Spirit, this guy moves super slow. And so things like that, if you want it up front, you can just be like, later nerd, and it gets lost, but then you recover it, and boom, you can resummon it, and it can keep doing work to help you out. So yeah, I guess the gist is you're really slow at turn order, you are really fast at movement. You've got, like, seriously, you have so many move 5, move 4, it's a move 3, but like jump, move 5, all over. So you can really get around if you want to play that way, which I thought was fun. Having a troop to back you, a whole army, is incredible, but beware of, if you're in a tight area, it can actually just be a giant pain in the butt. So it's worth noting that if you do block your allies and yourself and all that with having just this huge crew in the way, every turn that's lost to just having to wait and move and all that, because I mean, if they only have a move 3 and all the way up 3 spots there are nail spheres and all that, that's another turn with more discards that eventually have to get readied out and lost. So if it's a tiny area, you probably want to hold off on doing too many summons, but I guess that's the gist. It's a really fun and strong class. One last thing. So if you are on Tabletop Simulator, one thing that I thought was useful is these trackers. You can put 1 through 4 on them with the state. So what I did was, so say I've got the wolves, because I super loved the wolves. They were awesome. So what I would do is go boom. So my wolves had 4 health because I upgraded that. So these are both wolves, color coded, so they're there to keep track of, and then out here on the board. And then if they take damage, say they take 2, boom. So I found that really convenient. Obviously later on, like this has 5 health, this has 6, so not always able to do that, and then you have to keep track of it mentally. So maybe there is a better way to do it. If you know of one, feel free to comment and say what it is. Or heck, if you had a completely different strategy than the YOLO bring my army with me summoner, drop that in a comment too. So really, I guess what I'm suggesting is the Bonsai Shadow Summoner, which, now that I'm saying it out loud and realizing it, sounds pretty cool. But you know what, the thing is, it actually works. It works well. There are times where you'll, like, I had one time in particular where I almost through the scenario because I was feeling a little too big for my britches and just jumped into a giant horde of things that were a lot meaner than I realized. And they just one-shot all my stuff, my spheres, and my little 2 item summons. And then once you're out of the invisibility, it gets scurry, man. But for the most part, it's actually legit. And the thing is that it buffs up things like this card, um, and obviously, if you were to bring in a card like this, affect all adjacent allies. If you had a bunch of stuff adjacent to you, more gets affected, all that. But yeah, it actually works. The obviously you wouldn't want to be the bonsai summoner until later, and obviously I'm also suggesting quite a few purchases between the stamina potion, the invisibility cloak, and the card upgrades, in particular the wolf. So this, if you're gonna upgrade just one card, I can't tell you how much value I got out of just these 2 upgrades right there. It's just so good. So anyway, hope you enjoyed this at all. I'll catch you later, internet.